Yes, guys, welcome back to flatcapeurotalk here, and I am very, very excited for this one. We are going to be predicting the top six for all of Europe's top 5 leagues, something that Darius and I did, I think, for one of our first ever kind of live streams on this channel last year. The channel is going to be approaching its year birthday, I think, in like close to like 20 days or something like that.
Wow.
And I think that was one of the first live streams that we had ever done on this channel. And Darius was I wouldn't say lucky. I would say, very, hardworking enough, to join me for that one. I probably was very nervous at the time, and all that sort of stuff. But it's been a big journey from here. And I'm really excited to do this one. I really am. Like, I have so many things to talk about. It's kind of nice that maybe, we get to kind of, defer from a lot of the Spurs, anxieties right now and just kind of focus on what's happening outside Europe. And a lot of these are sort of kind of free for all guesses, not really like Premier League predictions as much that people kind of nail you down for forever, sort of, just kind of free for all guesses. And so I think we're going to have a lot of fun here, but we are joined by the usual Kieran and Darius. Kieran, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I don't know. I've seen some of your predictions from last year, and now I'm kind of nervous if some of mine don't come off.
We did not get many right.
I've seen some of you guys have different opinions as well. It's am I going to come next season and have one of those moments where it's like, Jesus Christ, why on earth did I predict this team to finish here? But yeah, looking forward to it either way.
I'm telling you, we did not get many right, so I'm pretty sure you're probably going to do better than us. But Darius, who did survive the last time that we did do this. Darius, do you expect yourself to do better than you did last time? I'm not going to give away, how you did, but do you expect yourself to do better, worse? How do you feel?
Sort of freestyle this year. I can't lie to you. It's sort of, I've gone as the window's gone this summer. It's been sort of an uncontrollable sort of, don't even know what to think window. Certain signings have gone under my nose, which I didn't even realize Kasper Schmeichel's left Leicester, for example. Like signings like that are just going completely under the radar. So I have no idea how teams are going to perform next season, which will probably be shown in my predictions for this season's top six, because I genuinely have no idea what's going to happen this season.
You never know. Sometimes a blind throw, gets you, actually more accurate than, a very intelligent, throw in the dark is what I would say. Often that is the case. But we're just going to greet a bit of, the Flat Cap Army while they're piling in here. I will put your comments up on screen, but I do want to get fresh and going because it will be really funny, everybody. We are going to look over the old predictions from last season between Darius and myself and, count up, which ones we got right and which ones, of course, we got wrong. I don't even think you could actually count the which ones we got wrong because it'd probably be counting too high, maybe to a number that we wouldn't even count to. But Tato in the house, good to see yourself. He's representing the Georgians of the Flat Cap Army, a huge population of this channel. Big up, Tato. Hopefully you're keeping well. Daniel Larson saying, very excited about this. Give me your predictions, Daniel and Tato, please, everybody. We also got the Irish Hotspur. Very kind of you, Dave. Give me your predictions as well. We have Foggy Foam as well. Good to see you, Foggy. Hope everything is well with you. Davinson in the house, who actually came onto this channel originally, then I think hopped over to the Irish Hotspur. Big up, Davinson. Hopefully you're keeping well to my man. But let's get it started. We're going to look at, our old predictions here. These are kind of our League One, or Ligue 1 predictions from last season. Darius, the actual, of course, is in the middle there, and then your predictions are to the left, mine are to the right. We both got 2 right, with PSG and Monaco. We basically had more or less, I think, the same top 4 here. And then we went for, absolute blind shots in the dark, clearly for 5th and 6th. I went for the sensationalism of Nantes and Angers. I think they started off, the campaign really well. I just was like, let's see if they can take it all the way. You went for Lyon and Lille. Neither of of our picks there, were even close to the top 6 is what I would say. So this one I would say maybe a bit boring, but 2v2, 2 points for both of us there. You probably could be proud with that. And then when it came to our Bundesliga predictions, I do remember how funny this was. We actually had carbon copy predictions there. We decided to copy each other. So we both got Bayern and Dortmund correct. And then in the previous one, we got PSG and Monaco correct. We're not really making ourselves look very good there, Darius, is what I would say, because we're getting a whole lot wrong, by the looks of things. We're only getting the obvious ones right by the looks of things. But Leverkusen, of course, finishing in 3rd. Leipzig, maybe we got very close with Mönchengladbach, not even finishing close. to where we predicted them to finish. We probably gave a bit of disrespect actually to Leverkusen, and then Stuttgart, we went with the hipster pick there, and that also didn't do very well, Darius, by the looks of things. I think we probably bought into the Wamangituka and kind of Koulibaly sort of vibes, I would imagine.
I just think, sometimes when teams look good for one period of a season, you forget sort of how much they can fall off on the tail end. And as much as I love Dortmund and I didn't think they were going to win, they really were terrible towards the end of the season. I just feel like there's certain teams that you can lock on in certain positions, but other than that, I think anybody even getting sort of like 4 out of 6 or 5 out of 6 has done a very good job, because the consistency of teams is just all over the place at the moment, except for a couple outstanding individual teams. You really can't guess who's going to finish where. So it's exciting, but it really is crazy. I mean, Leverkusen, who would have predicted they would go so up and down like for over the years? I mean, it is ridiculous. So yeah, you can't really predict much. You cannot really predict.
Bundesliga is probably the most fun one, I would say. It's definitely a roller coaster over there every single season. But Kieran, I'll let you in here because I know you haven't said anything for a bit. Maybe you can laugh at us because we clearly, back in 2021, mind you, 2021, we were definitely buying into the hipster, Stuttgart, at the time, because they had, I believe they had Endo, I think in the team, they had, Koulibaly, they had Wamangituka, they had Kaladzic, and, we were buying all into that, and they did not do so well.
I mean, I wouldn't really be laughing. The thing is, it's easy to laugh when there's no context, but then you put in context to situations, predictions, and things like that, or just how up and down teams can be in general, and it's not necessarily too much to laugh at. I mean, Leipzig you both only kind of got a place off. They finished 4th instead of 3rd. Leverkusen, they finished 2 spots ahead, but it was a very good season for Leverkusen last year. So, if it was an average season, you'd probably be right. So it's not really like you got too much. I suppose people should think about us as well. Under Mourinho, the last year of Mourinho, we were like first at one point in the league. Played Liverpool whenever it was, like November or December, and then fell off a cliff and we finished 7th in the league. And then last season it's like you got Nuno, no chance finishing in the Champions League, and then we ended up finishing 4th. So it swings up and down. So I can't laugh too much because half my predictions will probably be wrong this time next season anyway.
Well, if you want to start laughing, Darius and I got all of our Serie A predictions wrong. So there are no, perfect, predictions there. Juventus, we both went with, first place finish there. Maybe we just really like Allegri, Darius. Maybe that's what it was. I'm not too sure. Maybe we just thought that they were Bayern and they just win it every season. I went for AC Milan with 2nd. So I'm a bit proud of that one, that I got close, to AC Milan, getting up there. The fact that I put Inter, the club that I actually like, even in the Serie A alongside Fiorentina at 6th, is a real howler. Roma, I bought into the Jose Mourinho-isms and whatnot, and, put them at 3rd. That was a bit of a long shot. Lazio, I'm pretty proud of because I do like Maurizio Sarri football. And then Atalanta, again, through my hipster choice, pretty high up there. But Darius, Atalanta 2nd, Gasperini. Explain yourself.
A lot of Italian managers let me down. I mean, I'm never trusting Allegri. He's on fraud watch for me this season. I can't believe what he did last season. There was no sort of any attacking rhythm whatsoever in that Juve team, and I literally only predicted them first because of his track record. And I'm not really a track record person who just goes off what they've done in the past. So I will learn from Serie A this season. However, now I think about what I predicted in Serie A, I may have let somebody get the better of me in terms of his ability to persuade me on how well his teams are going to do. I'm not going to reveal too much on what manager that is, but I feel like I might have been caught up in his own self-created hype. So I'm excited to be fair.
I think the big thing with your predictions, I suppose, you both having Juventus in first, is that you probably invested way too much into Conte and Lukaku going from Inter. There was like, Jesus Christ, no Conte, no Lukaku now as well. How are they going to win it? Probably not, which they didn't. And then obviously you guys have got them dropping quite heavily because of that. And I suppose it was only ever really between Juventus and AC Milan, and both of you just favoured those. over Milan.
I'm never gonna doubt AC Milan, my favorite Italian team. Never gonna doubt them again. So I learned that lesson, and I'm not making that mistake this season.
And then our Premier League predictions from last season. I was the only one to get one, right there with Liverpool. It's kind of, sort of my, kind of trophy from last season when it came to predictions. Everybody just had Liverpool like either in fourth, fifth, kind of. I just was like, guys, like they have all their players back, like Jurgen Klopp, believe in the manager, believe in, the thing that's going on over there. They're easily going to be title contenders, and from that, Premier League, reaction that Dave and I did, or that reaction video that I did on this channel. If you haven't seen it, I gave myself a big old pat on the back for that one. So I won't dwell on it any further. But we've really bought into the Chelsea hype. Clearly, Darius, we are both Thomas Tuchel lovers at the end of the day. So I feel like we have a good excuse there. Man City, you probably gave them more respect than I did. Man United, I put them in fourth just to not be crazy, but I did in that reaction video actually say that I could expect them to end up being sixth place, which they actually did end up being. Spurs, I did want to put in fourth by putting fifth at the time. And then Leicester City, we just both like Brendan Rodgers. I don't know really much to say there. I feel like, we can move on to La Liga, where we actually got a lot correct. And this one, Darius, we can be a bit more proud of ourselves, despite me being a bit of a Barcelona hater and me, kind of finding every, reason, to hate on Barca when I can. I weirdly, Darius, I don't know what you slipped into my drink that day or something like that, because I did put Barca at first, and to win the league. And I even, watched the clip back. And apparently I was just thinking that like they would just have this like, I don't know, like Globetrotters sort of like, I don't know, just like road to glory, sort of like, all good vibes, like win the league sort of. I just didn't make any sense. I don't know what I was saying. But we didn't even get, the title winners correct there. You went for Atletico, and they definitely looked good at first, but they did fall a bit off there. I got Atletico correct. You got Barcelona correct. I got Sevilla correct as well as you. And then we both got Sociedad correct, which is a crazy prediction, I think, to get right. The fact that we got sixth place La Liga there. So maybe this is the one that we can be proud of ourselves.
Yeah, I'm not too mad that I got the Atletico Real Madrid thing sort of the other way around. I'm more mad that I got the Barcelona one right because of how bad they actually were doing. And I was just thinking, surely not. And they ended up making it quite, not competitive, but for their sake, they made it respectable. So I'm actually sort of mad that Barcelona somehow managed to do that. But Real Madrid, again, I don't doubt them anymore. And Atletico Madrid, as much as their team, actually, when you look at their team on paper, their team looks really good. And then the way they perform just doesn't really relate to the individuals in that team. So I don't know if it's Simeone sort of wearing thin there, but I don't know. I just saw that team on paper and thought, yeah, that team's set to win the league again. So
this is like a weird one, if you ask me, because like La Liga, I think these were all kind of blind shots in the dark, and we did exceptionally well, in this case, which I'm, quite proud of ourselves. The Sociedad prediction, I don't even know if I can explain at the time. I think we were just like, Isaac or Oyarzabal sounds good, put them in six, but I guess we just got that nailed on, which is fun.
I suppose you're actually really close to predicting this, because Villarreal, I suppose a lot of people after, the end, obviously not last season, the season before, ending on a really high note, probably a lot of people would have predicted them to finish in the top six. And then it's pretty much just, Jack, you've got Barca and Real Madrid first and second the wrong way, and Darius has just got first and third if he swaps them, which realistically on a usual year you probably would have predicted Madrid or Barca first or second anyway. So you're actually pretty close.
It was like a messiless season, obviously, with all that. I'm surprised that we actually got 3 out of 6. You're right, Kieran, to be fair.
To be honest, I think La Liga is probably the one league I'll probably get the least right when we review this next year.
To total up the score, though, Darius, I only beat you by 1. So that's 3-3 there. That's 4-3 there. We, of course, howlers in the Serie A. Don't need to go over that again. That would make it 6-5. And then that would make it 8-7. So I beat you by 1, but not a lot of correct ones, I would say. So hopefully, we do a bit better this time around. I do want to welcome a bit of the chat in. We have Ian Ferguson saying De Roten will rebound this season, Jack. maybe they will. Maybe under Tedesco, hopefully so. Daniel Larson saying Serie A is going to be amazing this season. I think, Serie A was amazing last season. Hopefully it can live up to the standard that it was last season, because it was sensational. Probably the best league, if not the second best league in Europe, I thought, last season. Welsh Gal saying, just got in. Big up, Jack. Class European panel. We got the European experts in the house. Don't you worry, Welsh Gal. Matt C saying, Romano tweeted about us potentially signing the young left back Udoji from Udinese. Guys, what are your initial thoughts on this?
I was literally just about to interrupt you after you went through the chat messages to say this.
I'm unfamiliar.
I just wanted to finish embarrassing Darius and myself, before we got to this part.
I'm very unfamiliar with him. I've not seen him play at all, so I'd like to be enlightened, to be fair.
The left wing back.
I was just reading this. It's supposedly a buy, and then we're loaning him back to Udinese for the season. Because that was my first initial thought. I thought I like the idea of this signing. I feel like we do need to strengthen other areas, that we still haven't really addressed this summer. So I kind of would like to see those addressed first. But overall, I actually don't mind this. But my main concern was we've already got Perisic, Sessegnon. We haven't offloaded Reguilon. Where is he going to fit in this season? But with the loan back, I think this would actually be potentially, a great move. Especially there's a lot of other clubs around Europe, like top clubs, big clubs, that have already been looking into him this summer. So to get ahead of them and have him on our books, I think, unfortunately, some people won't like buying for the future, but you do have to do that as well as, signing players for the here and now. Unfortunately, we just
Agreed.
haven't done the here and now, so a lot of people will probably be annoyed on Twitter, I can imagine.
Yeah, it feels like a Papa Matasar sort of situation, maybe all over again, with a player that, we'll only probably be able to see, the following season. But we do have, I think, enough left wing backs in here. And Udoji, if I'm not mistaken, might be more of kind of a defensive sort of left wing back. At least he looks pretty competent, kind of defensively. More than he looks good going forward, at least to me. I could be mistaken, though. I don't know too much about him, but that's just from what I could see from the stats. But yeah, maybe one that Spurs fans might not be too excited about, especially if it's not a center back or a creative midfielder. But we're going to move on, guys, because, we are going to be talking about predicting the top six. Just want to, again, welcome a bit in the chat. Toxic Headshot, good to see you. Nick Coys as well, good to see you. Hopefully you're keeping well. And then everybody, we're going to get this started. Ian Ferguson, thank you very much. Ich bin ein Ertaner. But we're going to move to our League One predictions. You could say this is kind of like, eating your vegetables, kind of starting with the league that we're probably least excited about, least interested in, maybe even eating your French vegetables. So hopefully they're a bit tasty. But, lads, I think we've gone with PSG, of course, maybe the obvious candidate. But I'm going to kind of shut up, let you guys maybe go away here. But it looks like Darius has gone for a controversial one. Lyon making a huge comeback and landing in second place. Darius.
Yeah, I mean, is there much, in this? I'm not too sure, really. I feel like Lyon, with, the addition of, I think it's Tagliafico. Is it Tagliafico who joined from Ajax? I'm pretty sure Tagliafico joined from Ajax. Tolisso obviously came back from Bayern Munich. Also, I'm guessing that's in a replacement of Renato Sanchez. Not Renato Sanchez. I can't remember who's just left. Paqueta, who might leave. That's what I was assuming. I think Paqueta might leave. So thinking that Corentin Tolisso might come in for Paqueta. Lacazette coming back, obviously, as well. Is always decent. So I think that there's enough in that team to really potentially, and if they do keep Paqueta as well, then I definitely do believe they'll do well. In comparison to the
one big issue though, Darius, just quickly, is that Peter Bosch wasn't my predicted managers to get sacked last season. I was so close to getting that right because he was, on, I would say, very thin thread, with Lyon. I expect him to maybe get sacked again, or he would be. My predicted managers get sacked again because he didn't really go so well for him last time. Maybe is it the talent? Because Lyon do have an exceptional, group of talented players, as well as those signings that you did mention, which are good signings for them. Is it going to be the players that carry them to second place?
I have a feeling that, again, it's more. I was more looking at the signings that they've made and just thinking they're smart and they're experienced signings that, you know, haven't really got much. But not that they haven't got much going about them, but it's more just sensible. And I think that with Peter Bosz, I don't really rate him as a manager either, but I do think that the talent is okay enough. And I'm also looking at the teams around them. And do I see any of these teams really standing out now? Not particularly. For me, I was actually going to potentially put Rennes in second place. But I just feel, I don't know, Peter Bosz does have experience, maybe not the best experience, but does have experience, you know, managing top teams. And I think if he was to get it going with Lyon and get a bit of form going, especially if they do keep the likes of Paqueta and other, and obviously bringing in the likes of I forgot his name now already. Excuse me, Corentin Tolisso. Then I just feel like that's a good midfield to keep a base from. Boateng's still at the back. Is it Diamande? I'm not sure if his name Diamande.
It's hard to remember. Diakapi, maybe. I'm not sure.
I think one of the. He's a really good centre back. To be fair, he's only young. I think
they have a really good young centre back, like a 19-year-old that is really good in that.
Lukeba is the 19-year-old. I'm pretty sure. So they've got.
I really like
players. They've got really good players. Thiago Mendes, I think, is an experienced midfielder who, I think that all round, I think that Lyon team probably is going to just grind out points more. Maybe Peter Bosz gets sacked and they bring in somebody else, and they might be able to again get a little bit of a bounce.
The sooner the better, and I think they have a better chance of getting your second position. And they also have Maxence Kakare as well. Yeah,
Kakare as well, of course.
I suppose that's probably the perfect time for me to jump in and just say why I put them fourth then, because obviously you've already said about the additions of Tagliafico, Tolisso, Lacazette, who I suppose will probably get more goals than he did in the Premier League, or I expect him to. But I actually think Peter Bosz will probably get sacked early on in the season, and they'll have a little bit of a bounce. I think last season was a bit of a freak season anyway. You know, you never expect Lyon to finish that low in the table. It was like one of their worst finishes in, I can't remember how long it was, but I seen it banded about as one of their worst finishes in a long, long time. So, yeah, I don't think you expect them to have as bad a season as they did last season. And to be honest, I think with the signs they've made and the players they already have, if they can keep on to a few of them, I think they should be aiming higher. And yeah, I actually just think that Bosz will get sacked early on, and they'll have a little bit of a bounce from that new manager going towards the end of the season. Similar to what we did with Conte.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe I can, kind of, probably either, cap off or get a lot of, kind of, work done on this Ligue. I'm going to explain all my predictions. Nice and kind of easy. PSG, it seems like, they finally looked at themselves in the mirror. They've signed Christophe Galtier and Luis Campos. Nothing flashy, but something very, very smart. They've always gone for flashy signings for either managers and players. They seem to be kind of looking at themselves in the mirror for once and realizing that maybe they were the ones that were causing all the problems in the first place. The reason I've gone for Rennes with a big second place finish is just because there has been huge manager turnover from what I did some research on in Liga. A lot of, kind of new managers are kind of about with these teams that we are predicting to finish in the top six. Whereas Bruno Genesio, the Rennes manager, is one of the only ones that is sort of kind of, staying with the club that he finished with before. They were one of the best attacks last season in Liga, scoring 80 goals last season. As we all know, the guys of like Martin Terrier, Bourigeaud, I think Locabia or whatever his name was as well, or Locadia, just tons of really good goal scorers in that team. Jeremy Doku kind of even had a pretty mediocre season. There's a lot of other Rennes players that were kind of carrying them. Lots of wins, from last season, but lots of defeats as well. So if they were able to, kind of, lessen those defeats, then they could have finished even higher up in the table, which is why I think they could finish second place. When it comes to kind of Marseille, as someone said, the only inclusion, for Marseille, the reason I kind of went for them is because they signed that Verona coach. And if you guys noticed, Verona did really well that last season in the Serie A. They were a really good attacking team. They actually signed him as the new manager after Sampaoli left, who is one of my favorite managers, Sampaoli. But tears aside, I am actually kind of interested because Marseille have gone from a very attacking manager to kind of another sort of kind of very attacking manager, which I think is a good thing. And then they also finished on second with 71 points, and they did have the fewest goals allowed actually last season, but only the 4th or 5th most goals scored. So if they kind of kept that defense pretty solid, but then were able to kind of increase the goals, then you could see Marseille kind of keeping that 3rd place finish. Lots of young talent in that team that I don't really need to gloss over, but a lot of people that they did lose, like Saliba, but they still do have plenty of young talent in that team. Kind of last but not least, but Nice, they did actually re-sign, if you guys did not know, Lucien Favre, that old kind of Nice manager that, used to do for pretty well for them in the past. Very defensive manager. Christophe Galtier is a very defensive coach. So I could see that going well for Nice, switching again, from a defensive manager to another defensive manager. But I'm not really inspired by Nice, mostly because they didn't really score that many goals last season. They had some of the very fewest allowed in terms of goals, but they did not score many goals last season. So I'm a bit worried for them. And then last but not least, Lille, Paulo Fonseca. The reason I've gone for him is just because of Paulo Fonseca. He's a very attacking manager. And I have a feeling that maybe Lille, with some of that talent that they have at that club, perhaps he might just end up sneaking them into 6th place. There we are, everybody.
I suppose one thing that obviously we were talking just before the stream, and obviously I suppose me and Darius were pretty much saying that we're like looking at this going, wait, we don't have Marseille in our list. When you look at the summer they've had, they've actually signed quite a few players. Obviously they brought in Arkadiusz Milik from Napoli,
right.
Paul Lopez from Roma. They've brought in quite a few signs. I actually probably would put them up there. I've actually got Rennes in 3rd, but apparently Terrier is linked to a move to Leeds. So I think if that happens, then I can probably see them finishing lower. It's it's a bit hard. It's a bit hard to predict, but I think Lens actually, just to justify my actions in having them in 5th.
Yeah.
Obviously they've lost to Corey and Jonathan Klaus, but the football they're playing towards the end of the last season, I think that keeping their manager, I think that they will actually keep developing on top of the season they've had last season and keep going strong. But kind of
keeping Seko Fofana could be huge for them. He's a huge player for them. So if they keep him, that could be huge.
I think Marseille is probably the one that probably bite me in the end, because I just like I said, I forgot I didn't put them in there. It's like just looking, it's like,
well, that's how Liga is. I think when it comes to predictions, I think we're less professional when it came to our Liga predictions. Maybe we might move on unless Darius had anything to say there. And if he didn't, Darius, then we'll get you started on La Liga here. We've all gone for Barcelona and Real Madrid as the second. Barcelona winning the title this season. Why is it maybe so obvious to us three, do you think?
I think Xavi seems like a manager better suited for a league than a Champions League run, in my opinion. I feel like the way he plays football, the way he looks at the game, I think is much more achievable for him to succeed in that league, I think. And as much as Real Madrid are excellent, and if you actually just look at Real Madrid's midfield, it's one of the scariest midfields in world football in terms of just potential and current talent. I mean, you could set up with Tchouaméni, Camavinga, Modric. You could set up with Valverde, Tchouaméni, and Camavinga. You could have Cruz in there. There's so much options in that midfield. It's now pretty scary. And even looking at the defensive side of things, just bringing in Rudiger and partnering with potentially Alaba, Militao, I think it's really scary what they're doing. A fullback maybe is a bit of a concern on the right-hand side. But I just look at Real Madrid's team and it is pretty ridiculous. However, I do feel like Real Madrid might go and do a back-to-back in the Champions League, and I think that's more of a possibility than them winning the league. I think Barcelona have depth beyond belief now, especially going forward, attacking-wise. I mean, I think you could put out 2 different front threes on that Barcelona team, and the level wouldn't change. I mean, Rafinha, Lewandowski, Aubameyang, Fati, Pedri, Gavi, these players are just all of a high level. And Ferran Torres, I didn't even mention. I just think that there's a lot of depth now. I think, again, Jules Koundé gone under the radar for what a good signing. Jules Koundé and Araujo, again, we talk about partnerships for the future. That's a partnership I think set up and ready for the next 10 years. Again, you look at the fullbacks, it's probably the only issue for Barcelona. But I do think Barcelona can based off what Xavi did last season and with the players that he did it with last season, you've given him now a bunch of players. And if they get Bernardo Silva as well, then it's a wrap for me. I think Barcelona will quite clearly and easily go and win that league. So yeah, I think it's pretty much a lock. And then if you look at the third and fourth, Villarreal struggled, but again they had a really big competition to look into and sort of prioritize potentially last season. So I do think they will get better. And Sevilla, I think, again, signing Tellez, Lamella's there again. I do think that Sevilla have got a good team, good enough to potentially not do as well as they have been doing in the past, but still be up there. And I've really just put Betis in there because they did all right last season. I've not really got much on Betis, but apart from that, I do think this is probably my most confident one I can choose or go with league-wise. I definitely believe this is probably the one that I think would happen most likely. And now I say that, I'm going to touch wood as well, just because I've said that.
I love that. Very clippable moment there. His most confident, table. Kieran, would you like to go next, or would you rather me go, after that?
No, I suppose not really much to add on. I think Darius is. I think look, the additions that Barcelona have made. Where the hell they've found this money from? First of all, I have no clue. When you consider they're also looking at Bernardo Silva, after all the money they've already spent bringing in Rafinha, Lewandowski, they're giving Ousmane Dembele a new contract. It's Frank Kessie as well, Koundé, now Bernardo Silva as well. I think the additions they've made on top of, I think Xavi's shown that he's a competent manager towards the end of last season. I think that the way they progressed towards the end of last season, I think they will just continue to build on that, especially with the new additions that they've brought in as well. Like, you're pretty much going from having very limited depth and players out injured, like Dembele injured for most of last season, and the contract situation. I think now that's pretty much resolved, and he's going to sign a new contract, and he's also back and looks fit in preseason. He looks firing, looks good in preseason.
He looks really good, doesn't he, Dembele?
I think that they will be formidable, and I think that they'll probably tip it as well, purely because I think Madrid are a team that pride themselves on having runs in the Champions League. And I think
everything.
Yeah, and I just think that will probably sway the league a little bit, in terms of Barca will be able to put a full focus into it. Villarreal finished 7th last season, obviously with Champions League. They kind of league form dipped, but they've got no Europe this season.
Yeah,
they've got no Europe.
That's a big thing, no Europe.
Yeah. So you expect them to kind of bounce back. I mean, you know how much Europe affects a team. Look at Leicester. I know Leicester had a lot of injuries last season, but they went for a team that was challenging for Champions League on like the final day of the season with us, pretty much last season, to a team that, no one would have predicted where they finished last season. Betis, I think they'll just kind of finish relative to where they did last season. And then Sevilla, I know obviously they've lost Koundé, they've lost a few other players, but I don't know. I don't see them dropping. I don't see them dropping too much. I mean, Aman, no way they're coming third.
I can't wait to explain this part because it's very
no Europe, and Atletico Madrid aren't the Atletico Madrid team that people think they used to be. They aren't. For me, I still think they're probably third best team in there, but they're definitely not as strong as they used to be. They're definitely not the same team.
I'll explain my Villarreal prediction because I think you guys did a lot of legwork there. So Darius and Kieran, I thank you very much for that. Listen, for Villarreal, I believe a lot in managers. This is kind of going to be a theme, for this kind of, prediction, kind of video is I feel like managers often, sort of kind of win, teams titles. They win teams qualification, having a solid and a very good manager or an elite manager, you could say, is better than having an elite squad of players. It's even kind of why I asked Darius with the Leon prediction. It's like, yes, I think, Leon's squad is good, but I don't rate that manager. Whereas like, with Villarreal, it's like I do kind of rate Unai Emery when it comes to La Liga. I feel like he knows La Liga. He knows how to, do well in that. And the fact that he doesn't have any sort of kind of, European, football to distract him, of any sort kind of makes me feel like, he is going to focus on La Liga. And he did exceptional, with kind of, outthinking teams in Europe. So it makes me think he's going to outthink some teams in La Liga. Danjuma, if they're able to keep him this season, was absolutely ridiculous last season. So if he stays healthy, I imagine him to just tear apart La Liga like he did last season. If they keep Pau Torres, that would be even crazy as well. So imagine if they kept Pau Torres. I feel like then you could definitely rationalize, finishing in third. They were the fourth highest scoring team last season, despite finishing seventh. They were the fourth highest scoring team. I think Parejo, Trigueros, Capu, Coquelin, and Gio Lo Celso, who's going to be their new midfielder. I think that's kind of solid, for kind of a league campaign. And that attack of Yeremy Pino, Chukwueze, who I think a lot of us like as well, Alcacer and Gerard Moreno, who are both, kind of very seasoned, kind of La Liga strikers, kind of combined with very young, kind of talents who are very young, talented wingers. I feel like is very smart. And apparently they just brought in Pepe Reina as well. So, that atrocious goalkeeper who you saw from, the Champions League might not be there any longer. So
I think Yeremy Pino is going to have a great season. I think that's a great shot. He's probably going to have the stand. He might have a Danjuma-esque season this season. I think Yeremy Pino. He's a great talent.
One thing I suppose that people aren't thinking of as well is the fact that even though Villarreal were in seventh last season, like you said, the teams they've had to prepare for Juventus twice in midweek, Liverpool, Bayern. They're having to prepare for these big teams, giants from, from other national leagues.
Porto or something.
Yeah, that they're having to prepare for. They literally had to prepare in like back to back. It was Juventus, Bayern, Liverpool.
Yeah.
They had to prepare for. So when you take that away, when you take that out and you basically say, look, you don't have any European football, you just have domestic football, and they only lost 2 more games more than Atletico, who finished in third last season, and Atletico, who will have European football to compete for. I think that, like you said, tactically, they will not have to worry about midweek games in Champions League against massive teams in quarterfinals, semis.
Yeah, so squad depth isn't an issue too.
It'll just be a thing of we have a full week to prepare for XYZ team to get ourselves back where we want to be, which is obviously in the Champions League.
Really agree with that. Really well said. Real Betis, to maybe give, a bit of context there when it comes to that. They did score the 5th most goals last season in La Liga. They were also tied for the 5th most goals conceded, or the 5th fewest goals conceded, with 40 goals conceded. Manuel Pellegrini is their manager. That is kind of why I did put them in the top 6. Sort of also explains why they even finished in the top 6. Their key players, of course, are probably Nabil Fekir. But if you didn't know, Sergio Canales was definitely kind of one of the unknown players from last season, having a really good season. I think he ranked really well when it came to like a bunch of random stats, on FBref. He had 5 goals and 8 assists last season. Juan Mi, their left winger, had 16 goals and 4 assists. I had no idea, actually. Their left winger for Real Betis, absolute hero. They brought into Willian Jose, Willian Jose, the Brazilian, who's been at Sociedad, Wolves, recently. He's kind of a veteran of La Liga. I think that was a good signing. They brought in some really young 21-year-old Brazilian player for like 10.5 million. So, that could be an absolute flop, or that could be an absolutely crazy good signing. It's going to be one or the other, nothing in between. And then they also did Luis Felipe from Lazio as a loan signing, or not a loan signing, a free signing. And I think that was one of the best free signings of this actual transfer window as well. And apparently Joaquin, the 41-year-old for Real Betis, has signed for another year as well. So they're keeping that legend in the club. So I think 5th is bound for Real Betis. But yeah, you guys did a lot of legwork on the other ones. Maybe Valencia, I would just quickly explain. This one I was actually a bit embarrassed by. As much as you guys were embarrassed by Marseille not being in your guys' table, I'm embarrassed by my Valencia prediction. I just realized now they have Gattuso. I think that was a pretty poor prediction, but I'm going to stick by it with Gattuso as the manager. Kind of the whole reason I was thinking was that they have just such a talented squad. They have a really young, good Georgian keeper. All of their center backs, or most of them, are below the age of 25. They have a pretty good midfield of Guillamon, Bracic, Soler, Yunus Musa. If they keep Geddes, I think that'd be a big plus. If they keep Maxi Gomez, that'd be a big plus. And then Castillejo, I think they just took away from AC Milan. And who knows, maybe he just blows up, in La Liga after, kind of rotting away in Serie A. But I think that Valencia prediction might end up being an absolute howler because I do not believe in Gennaro Gattuso. Any last words on La Liga, guys?
I just hope that Lewandowski proves that. I'm slowly beginning to really believe that Bundesliga might be a bit of an easy route for strikers. So I hope Lewandowski scores just as many goals in La Liga, so he kind of dispels that rumor that's slowly building in my head. Because the way I saw Mane scoring goals against RB Leipzig, it was like he wasn't even trying. So fingers crossed Lewandowski scores at least 20 goals, so we don't have to face those Farmers League rumors and Farmers League. I think
the thing with Bundesliga is always the way it's played, such high intensity, pressing high up the pitch. Nearly every team plays with a high back line. So it's like if you've got any sort of pace or someone who can put a decent ball in behind as a striker, runs, you're gonna get chances. So you have decent finishing, you're gonna get goals.
It's an attack.
I think Adeyemi.
Yeah, people have been telling me like Nkunku's like the next best thing. Tottenham should sign him, and I'm on the line with that. I'm like, yeah, he's a good player, but if you look at his goals, like 99.9% of them are in behind, and it's like, is that what we need? A player that's making runs in behind when we already have Sonny? He's mainly someone
even
who's
just making that adjustment. Like
really.
Werner really struggled, in the Premier League for that same reason, where he had all that time, in behind. He, had a good creator, for him to play him in behind. The whole system was based off of him being able to run in behind, where the Premier League was asking him to do more than that.
And that's the thing. He has pace to burn, Werner. Like if you see him, he's actually rapid. Yeah, he's rapid. So in the Bundesliga, it's like he's that fast. He had so much time, to make choices or make decisions of what he's going to do with it. But in the Premier League, you don't really have that space in behind constantly.
Yeah, agreed. I was going to say something there, but I missed. Oh, yeah. I was going to say La Liga, I feel like has actually become maybe more the sketchy league to buy players from now. Like we've seen players with really good stats, in La Liga on FBref. They make that transition to any other league. I mean, not even just the Premier League. It seems like any other league. And they kind of fall, kind of flat on their face, or they seem to need some sort of adjustment period. It is becoming, I think, kind of maybe the toughest league to transition from to any other league, because it's actually apparently the slowest moving league. There's actually the fewest goals, scored total, I think, in La Liga, last season. Even the score lines between teams were never like really of huge margins of any, of any sort. It's kind of becoming just one of the least exciting leagues, like to be fair. And so you could say that, buying a La Liga player might be a bit more risky than it used to be in the past.
Might be the new sort of retirement place where the older players start to slowly wind down their career. Because I do feel like I'm not interested in La Liga as much as I was. However, I say that and think to myself, this season probably will turn that around with the amount of signings, Barcelona and Real Madrid have made, and even Atletico to that point. So we'll have to see.
Moving on to the Bundesliga here, Bayern, of course, kind of natural, favorites. They destroyed Leipzig in that official opening match, of the Bundesliga campaign, their basic version of the Community Shield. There seems to be a very relaxed kind of camaraderie over there now that Lewandowski is left, which I think is kind of interesting. It seems like things are a bit more kind of chill over there. Gnabry and Sané both tied to long-term contracts. I've tweeted about this multiple times. Was crucial. If they did not do that, I think Bayern were going to be in a very bad spot, because I think that would have been an absolute big fat error. Mane signing, I think is actually quite clever, because he's going to do probably well for Nagelsmann as sort of that hybrid striker / winger. And also he originally came from a Red Bull team anyway. Nagelsmann is a Red Bull trained coach. You could see that maybe kind of going well together. Gravenberch is basically the only Goretzka replacement in the world, and yet they found one. And the defense usually used to be really injury prone and kind of was questionable, Bayern's defense. Now, like with De Ligt, Upamecano, Hernandez, Pavard, it's looking a bit better, I could say, but it still is, I would say, very injury prone, that defense. But Kieran, you and I have both gone for Leverkusen, in second. Take it away.
Yeah, probably a bit more of an outside shout, I've muddled my words out, outside shout for them to finish second. Last season, third was an unbelievable finish, and so far the only signing has been Hlozek. So, it's not necessarily like there's too much, too many transfers in to back this up. But what I will say is obviously, Florian Wirtz missed 16 games last season. He's going to be back in early September, they reckon. Yep. So if you think that this Leverkusen side, how well they did last season, now Florian Wirtz is coming back. Fosu Mensah and Amina Adli obviously missed 9 games towards the end of last season. If they're back early enough, it gives the extra depth. I just feel like Leverkusen are just going to keep building upon last season. I think that Dortmund will fall a little bit because of the adjustment period with actually all their new signings. I think Leipzig will continue to improve, but I just feel like the points gap will just be closed a little bit between those two, or it'll be very close second and third between Leverkusen and Leipzig. I think it could actually be either way between those two, but I got to back Leverkusen.
Love it. You also forgot about Sardar Azmoun, who's one of my favorite kind of strikers that nobody knows about. Really good Iranian forward who's really good in the air as well. Apparently a former volleyball player, which kind of would explain how good he is in the air. And I thought he was excellent in Champions League games in the past for Zenit. So you have a rotation of Hlozek, Sardar Azmoun, and Patrick Schick. And then your wingers or kind of creative players are Diaby, Paulinho, Florian Wirtz. Apparently you guys signed some guy named Amine Adli. I don't know anything about him, but he's talented and young, apparently. Still have Bellarabi as well, who's a total veteran. I'm really excited. And you also have a really good defense, I feel like, too, over at Leverkusen. And, you were the third highest scoring team in the Bundesliga last season. And you also kept your manager around. I feel like you guys are only going to improve. I'd be shocked if you guys were like worse than what you were last season.
It's only 3 losses more than Bayern in first. Obviously the points gap is massive because there's so many more draws. But honestly, I feel like the impact that Wirtz will have coming back into that team, the creativity and the goals that he'll provide to that team, it's just a much more functionable side with him in it than it is without him. So I think with him in it, a lot of those draws will turn into wins. I think there'll probably maybe be a few more losses, but the points differential from turning those draws into wins, I think will kind of counteract that. To be honest, maybe I just rave about him a bit too much, but he's one of my favorite young talents. A lot of people talk about Sven Botman, but this is the kid who turned Sven Botman inside out and sent him back to the youth leagues. So yeah.
Darius, Leipzig, Tedesco. I think you've been a big fan of Tedesco from previous kind of chats that we've had. Take it away.
Lost only 5 games in his tenure so far as manager of Leipzig, and he's brought in David Raum, Xaver Schlager, and players like Ilax Maribra coming back off loan. This Leipzig team is really, really, really good, and they've only improved. For me, you look at the centre backs. If you keep Vardiol, you've got Vardiol, Simmerkan, Klosterman, and Willi Orban. That's 4 centre backs that I think are all definitely capable of rotating to be, challenging for a title.
Too. I think
Halstenberg as well. Completely forgot about who can also play as a left back. Yeah. Then you look at the left backs now: David Raum and Angelino. That's ridiculous. A pretty ridiculous, duo to be rotating in and out of your left back position. Right back, not too sure on who they're going to play. Yeah, I think obviously with Mukiele going, I know he wasn't always playing there, but I think they are going to need to invest in a right back. But right back and Leipzig, they'll probably go and get somebody from Salzburg or from a random club, and they'll turn into a £30 million right back. So I don't. That's the thing with these Leipzig and Red Bull clubs. I don't doubt that they're going to find a correct replacement. So yeah, you go through it again. You look at Lima, Schlager, Haidara in the middle, Kevin Campbell, Olmo, and it's just Szoboszlai. It's just a ridiculous Forsberg as well. It's just ridiculous midfield that you can choose from. And then even up front, you choose in between Nkunku, Andre Silva, and Yusuf Poulsen, and even potentially Alexander Sorloth if he comes back off his loan and stays. So for me, that's depth, that's quality, good manager, really, really good manager. I don't see them going for the league, but I see them being comfortably second place. And that hurts me as much as I do like Leipzig. And I do feel like, people hate on them because they do things differently. And because obviously they have had a big advantage and a big head start. I do think they are going to finish above my beloved Dortmund. And Leverkusen, I don't know. I really do want to put them higher, but I think like you mentioned, just Hlozek as an addition. I'm not sure who else they've added, but when I look at Dortmund bringing in, Schlotterbeck, Adeyemi, Sula, these sorts of players, they're significantly better as well. And defense has always been an issue for Dortmund, and Schlotterbeck and Sula should come in and really just, almost automatically improve that defense somewhat by a bit. So Adeyemi, again, we spoke about, attackers having that free reign to go running behind and take chances on score. Adeyemi's perfectly suited for that Bundesliga. So I think he's going to probably get about 20 goals a season. So yeah, it's going to be Bayern, Leipzig, I think quite close to Bayern. I think Dortmund are going to be a little bit away from Leipzig, and I think Leverkusen and Dortmund will probably fight for third and fourth. Union Berlin I've only chose because I absolutely love them and I just wish they'll do well, and they continue to do well. So as long as they do well, I've got no reason to not choose them. And Freiburg, I guess I just looked at their team and thought, you know what? Didn't even realize they signed Matthias Ginter from Mönchengladbach. And I think, again, Matthias Ginter is a very underrated centre back in my opinion. I do actually rate him quite a bit. So yeah, for him to come in and potentially partner, I'm not sure who else does play centre back. I'm looking now. Apparently Kevin Schlotterbeck, Nico Schlotterbeck's older brother, plays as a centre back for them. So I just look at them and I think Freiburg might, continue their decent form as they did. And yeah, that's really my reason for Freiburg staying at 6. But yeah, maybe Leverkusen, maybe I've underestimated the actual entire team, and Florian Wirtz returning as well. Maybe I have underestimated that. But Leipzig, I just think they're ridiculous at the moment.
They are. To be honest, I feel like Leverkusen finishing second is probably even more of a bolder shout than finishing fourth. It's like
really,
it's a bold prediction. Well, I mean, third last season was amazing. Like I said, you've only got 3 more losses than Bayern, who won the league and were like 17 points ahead. You weren't losing many games, but I'm just like praying that we keep it that way, and then some of those draws with the return of turn into wins. But realistically, you're probably going to lose a lot more games, and are you going to turn those draws into wins? It's debatable. How much, like the offset of wins, some of those draws turn to wins and some into losses. Is it going to offset itself much that you're getting a lot more wins from those draws, or are you going to get a lot more losses from those draws? It's it could go either way, to be honest. But I don't know. It's a tricky one.
I agree. Leverkusen, putting them in second is much more of a bolder prediction than, Leipzig. It actually felt weird to put Leipzig in third. It felt like, this is a bold prediction by putting Leipzig in third. It even felt weird to put Dortmund in fourth, as well, because,
I agree.
Despite how great of a window they've had, clearly Kieran and I think, it's kind of baby steps.
We know what Dortmund are like, don't we? All three of us, really deep down, we know how Dortmund can perform, and we know what Dortmund most likely will do in a season when they realize they can't win that Bundesliga. I feel like that's Dortmund's issue. Once they know they can't win the Bundesliga, it almost feels like, well, we may as well play the kids. We may as well just at least maybe try and go for that pokal. But I don't think Dortmund fourth is a really big, hot take, to be fair with you. I think,
to be honest, it's not even like I don't rate them. Like when you put in a team in fourth, it seems like you're just devaluing their whole season, especially when they finished second last year. But it's like I don't even think they'll struggle as a team defensively or anything. I just think that offensively they'll be a little bit different. That might take a bit of time to adapt, especially with all the new signings.
Also, these other Bundesliga teams have just gotten really good. Like Leverkusen is a very good team. Leipzig is a very good team. Like you said, about, kind of attacking choices, like Dortmund now have less of a flashy, kind of, like you could say even dangerous attack than Leipzig or Leverkusen do. Like
I'm unaware, were Leverkusen in the Champions League last season?
No.
No, so that's another addition.
That's another big thing as well.
I think that I don't know how serious they'll take it, but I was just wondering. Sorry to interrupt you, Jack.
No. It's a worthy point. But I was going to say Dortmund's attack is not as flashy as it once was. Now that Haaland, is gone. In fact, I'm actually even a bit worried about that attack because, of course, with Aller's kind of diagnosis, they don't really have as much of a big number 9 up top. In fact, the only kind of striker options that they have are Adeyemi, Donya Malen, who they bought the previous season, and then Mukoko, and that's just pace. And I'm a bit worried that, in the Bundesliga, that's probably the best league, to have, only pacey options, but I am a bit kind of, concerned, like when they come up against, maybe teams in the Champions League as well, because they found a way to finish second, despite how atrocious, Dortmund were. They found a way, to finish second. And I just feel like you said, all those new signings, being brought in, I think they'll play well. I think they'll fit in. But Edin Terzic, new manager as well, kind of coming back in, just feels like, for them to finish second or third for Dortmund, I think that would be a huge success. Like, I think, the board, the fans would be really surprised if they finish second or third, with, all the change, all the turnover that's happening. In fact, a fourth place finish, they probably wouldn't even be too upset with.
This is part of the thing as well, right? Like when you look at the points difference, Leverkusen were 6 points above Leipzig last season. So it's only 2 wins difference, really. And then Leverkusen were only 5 points behind Dortmund, which is like 2 wins again. There's really not too much of a points gap difference between these teams. So it's like, even though you're saying Dortmund fourth, the points difference in the end could be like 6 points between second and fourth. Like it could be really, really close. You're kind of predicting who's going to win one more game than the other team. At this point, it's
And there is only one.
And the Bundesliga is more. Bundesliga is more kind of changeover and turnover every year, I would say.
Yeah, it's more like second to sixth is probably a heavier turnover. Like first, you can pretty much predict Bayern. I don't think anyone else has won it since Klopp was at Dortmund. Maybe I don't know. Yeah.
But the rest of the league is very interesting always.
Like, that's the thing. Like a lot of people don't say they don't like the Bundesliga because they go, oh, well, Bayern win it every year and they just buy the rest of the league's players. But when you actually sit down and watch the Bundesliga, the rest of it is actually really interesting. It's just unfortunately who's going to win the league. Yeah.
It's having the plot spoiled, but it's a really good plot. That's what I would say.
It's like when you watch a film and you're like, that was an amazing film, but I knew that was going to happen. It's like you knew the ending of the film because you already guessed it at the beginning or something.
Yeah,
you're like, that's the bad guy, and then it's I knew he was the bad
guy. Maybe quickly, Frankfurt. The reason I put them in there is maybe again, that theme of I kind of just believe in managers. Oliver Glasner winning the Europa League, perhaps, they kind of carry that momentum, into the league. Because I think for Frankfurt fans, that was a really disappointing, league campaign. And I would imagine they'd be okay with kind of sacrificing, kind of Champions League football in pursuit of finishing higher up the table in the Bundesliga. If they keep Ndika, I think that would be huge for them because I actually do like that defense of theirs. That one guy, Tuta, looked really good for them. That middle center back and that back three for them, Tuta looked really good. Jibril So, Sebastian Rhoda, Jokic. I like their Kamada, Lindstrom. They just signed Mario Götze back on loan or on a free as well. Boré looked really good for them too. Like, at least in the Europa League, like Boré had scored some nasty goals for them, I thought. And then they apparently signed some young, talented Ligue 1 or Liga kind of, striker for like 12.5 million. So either again, he blows up and does exceptionally well, or might be a bit of a flop, but I just believe in Glasner. I'm not too confident in that fifth choice. I'm not really confident in that one, but Freiburg seems like we're all buying into Christian Streich, kind of very, very successful campaign. They were the 4th best defense and the 5th best attack last season, and they finished 6th. So I think we're probably, pretty actually well reserved in putting them there because that basically meant they probably should have finished 4th or 5th, last season, based on those sort of metrics. They actually deserved, to finish in the top 6. They've added Ginter. They added, that Japanese player from PSV Eindhoven. That could be interesting. They also have, some kind of seasoned, kind of Bundesliga veterans. There's really good camaraderie in that team. So I do expect Freiburg to stay in the top 6. Be kind of crazy if they didn't. But any final words, lads, maybe on the Bundesliga, perhaps Mönchengladbach or Union Berlin?
To be honest, Mönchengladbach is probably the weirdest one I've gone for, because
they have that one guy, Kone, who's like one of the best midfielders, I think, in Europe.
But even like the last 2 seasons, I think they've been like 10th and 8th in the league. I just, for some reason, and they've lost Ginter and Mbolo.
Yeah.
But I just have a feeling, like, for some reason, I just have a gut feeling. I mean, well, 3 years ago, they were like 3rd or 4th in the league. I don't know what
they
it
still
was.
Have Lars
like
Stindl.
Really high up. They fell down. Now they've lost Ginter and Mbolo. They've not really brought in anyone, but for some reason, I just have a feeling like it's just going to click.
Yeah, this is a fun one. Yeah, I like
actually,
that.
one person to mention, obviously, they've signed Oscar Fraulo, who played in the UEFA Youth League last season. So obviously, that's like the European competition, and got 27 goals and 38 appearances. So now that is under 19s. So it is, it's a bit toss up whether he's actually going to come into the Mönchengladbach first team and actually do anything. But I think that it's just one to shout out, because as much as we kind of rave about the like of Donnelly, Scarlett, Devine, this guy's putting up good numbers in the under 19s last season. So maybe one to look out for going forward. And he's a midfielder, not a striker, by the way. He's a central midfielder.
Union Berlin, Darius. I'm wearing my Erta shirt right now, so tread carefully. Union Berlin, the much better and much more well-run Berlin club, I will admit, as much as it's pain to say. They are basically the Burnley of the Bundesliga. It's just that if Burnley were in the Bundesliga, the league would be a bit kinder, to the way that they play, and they could end up, having more European football more often, which is why I actually like Union Berlin, because it's like, if you did put a Burnley in any other league, they might finish higher up the table than you think. I think they had 44 goals scored last season and like 40 conceded, which is like the most anti-Bundesliga like team, you could basically find. But Union Berlin, progressing further.
Also, actually, the other reason that I put Mönchengladbach at 6th is because Daniel Farke is now their manager.
That's right.
Well.
That's right. I mixed it up. I thought it was Hooter, or did he get fired or something? Maybe he went somewhere else.
I think he
got fired. Yeah. So there you go. Very attacking manager with Farke, so that could be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I really have no reasons for putting Union apart from the fact that they have a soft spot in my heart. They just continually overachieve for a club of that size, and to be fair with you, as long as it continues, I'll keep rooting for them. So I'm sorry, it is the opposite, a team in the city, but I have a soft spot for them, and I think that they've proven now that maybe that sort of way of playing football in a league like the Bundesliga, where at the end of the day, like you said, Kieran, most, if not all, teams are playing a high line. You sort of get the ball from A to B as quick as possible, and you can eliminate potentially all of that team in one pass. And if it's done correctly, counterattacks can be done probably easier than any other league.
They literally are Burnley, like long ball football, defensive 4-4-2, like they're hilarious.
It could be the way to do it in the Bundesliga, when you have so many teams potentially putting their centre backs on the line. They've obviously had a few quick players. Is it Tanguy Koulibaly, I think his name was, who was there. I'm not sure.
Stuttgart. He was at Stuttgart.
Was he at Stuttgart? I can't remember the player.
Taiwo Iwaniyi is the guy that moved to Nottingham Forest.
That may be what I'm thinking of. Again, if you have a player like that who has a bit of physical presence, who's quick, put ball over the top in the Bundesliga, you literally are beating 10 men. So I think that's why it works, and I think it probably will continue to work unless the entire Bundesliga decides to change the way they play football. So
sure, I think that it will work. I just don't think it will be as effective as last season, but I do think it will work, because you kind of see how Leipzig struggled against Rangers when they're willing to put players behind the ball. It's like, okay, how do we get the ball to Nkunku? It's like, okay, well, he doesn't have any space, so let's just cross the ball in. As long as you've got some big defenders who are going to throw their head at it, a lot of the time you're going to get, you're going to get away with defending like that.
Yeah. They've just gotten away with, I think, Union Berlin as not being as like German. Like they just don't play like other German teams, you know, and I think that's what's, you know, kind of makes them a bit unique. And they're a very well-run club. They have a fantastic stadium that's kind of more old school. Yeah, a lot of things that are just better than I would say Hertha, but still we keep our heart with Hertha and we keep our Herz mit Hertha, and hopefully Jovetic bangs 10 in this season to keep us up. But Serie A predictions, everybody. Inter Milan, I have gone for the first place finish, and you guys have gone for AC Milan with the first place finish. I'm going to go first, actually, on this one. And the reason I've gone for Inter first here is mostly because I feel like they're more motivated to win the title this season after losing out last season. So I feel like there might be a bit of kind of revenge kind of motivation at heart here. They also scored 15 more goals than AC Milan did last season, and they only conceded one fewer goal than, you know, AC Milan. So it really just showed that Inter lost or drew the games that they shouldn't have. They really deserved to win the title. It was just more that AC Milan just ended up winning or getting the points in just a more kind of clutch sort of fashion than Inter Milan did. But again, the fact that they scored 15 more goals than AC Milan and only conceded one fewer kind of shows that they were probably the true title winners, you know, by those kind of metrics. And the fact that they missed out then makes me think that they're probably pretty pissed over, you know, at Inter. The squad depth is just incredible in that team, you know, just insane. In fact, and this would be the starting 11 that I kind of figured out. And this could be totally wrong, the starting 11, but you have Onana, who's their new goalkeeper. They could do Bastoni, De Vrij, Skriniar, of course, Robin Gosens as the new left wing back, Denzel Dumfries, Brozovic, Barella, Çalhanoğlu, Lukaku, and Lautaro. I mean, so many crazy players. And then on the bench, these could be some of the guys that they could have the bench. They could have Joaquin Correa on the bench, which I just think is crazy. Mkhitaryan on the bench. Apparently, they just signed some really good Italian striker named Pinamonti as well, who's going to be sitting on the bench. Edin Dzeko, who had a great season last season, would also be sitting on the bench. I mean, it's just that squad depth I just think is pure stupid. So they were kind of deserving to win the title last season. So if you ask me, lads, I feel like they're going to win it this year. And it's kind of more like revenge kind of title syndrome is maybe what I'm thinking about too.
You know what? I really want Milan to win the title, to be honest. You know, to be honest, I prefer Inter just because of R9. You know, I just see him in that blue Inter shirt, that with the Pirelli sponsor on it. But I don't know, man. AC Milan, I mean, looking at their transfers, you know, you got De Ketelaere and Florenzi and Origi who have come in on top of winning the league last season. It's so hard. I think it could be either one of those teams. I do think that Inter should have won the league last season. I mean, the only reason they didn't win it was, I can't remember what game it was, but their goalkeeper.
Yeah,
and he let the ball roll out from his under his feet.
No,
and then it's like you concede and now you don't get a win. It's like, kind of throwing it away. But part of me also thinks like, how is that going to affect Inter mentally that they've thrown it away? They've lost, you know, Perisic, who isn't necessarily the most vital cog, but still provides something and provides experience in that changing room. Whereas, you know, Milan have gone out and signed more players that are going to impact and come on in their starting 11.
But they did sign Lukaku, who won it with them, previously. So Lukaku could come in with that bit of experience, having won it before.
Yeah, I just feel like the momentum from winning the league last year and the new signings, I feel like AC Milan will just crawl it over the finish line this season. I think it'll be really close again. And I think Juventus will make it a lot more interesting this season as well. You know, the additions of Gleison Bremer, I think Vlahovic will start scoring a little bit more frequently like he was at Fiorentina. I think that they'll probably make it a little bit more interesting as well. I don't think it'll be a 3-horse race. I think it'll be between AC and Inter, but I think Juventus will be a lot more competitive than they were towards the end of last season.
I like it. Darius? You know, AC Milan, you know, Roma, you know, where would you like to, you know, get your thoughts in?
As you can see, certain Jose Mourinho has got into my head. He is living in my head rent-free, but I can't look further than Roma to do the best in terms of expectation because of their signings. I mean, you look at who they signed. Zeki Celik's gone under the radar. Matic they've signed, who I think is going to be perfectly fine in the Serie A. I think he will sit there and do a job perfectly fine for Jose. I think Justin Kluivert either is returning from his loan this year, I believe, from Nice. So
maybe,
depending what they do with him, he could be another addition. Then Dybala obviously is the big one this summer. And it looks like they could be potentially signing Gini Wijnaldum from PSG as well.
Yep.
So if that does happen, that's Jose. That's a Jose window if I've ever seen it. Sort of Dybala, Matic, Zeki Celik, and Wijnaldum. He's making a team very, very difficult to get through. And maybe looking at the preseason, it wasn't a lot to take from, but they've got good players.
Shows that they're
winners.
winners.
They keep Zaniolo. Maybe they are even potentially pushing for a second or first place. That might be crazy, but I don't think they are going to keep Zaniolo. Hopefully, we are the team to take Zaniolo off them. But I think Roma have got a really, really good team. I think the two above them, I'm very, very happy. This may be a little bit of Juve hate, but I'm very happy it's the Milan clubs fighting for the title again. As much as, Juve have always been around there, I do love to see AC and Inter challenging for that title. I do think Kieran's right in the sense of the signings are just, I'm just closing my eyes, thinking about De Ketelaere and Rafael Leao partnering each other, and it's scary, scary stuff. And Rebic, I believe, is still there, I think, as well, who I think is a very underrated forward as well. So, yeah, AC for me to take it into definitely close second. It's going to be within a point again, I believe. Juve, I actually don't like Juve at all. I love the squad. I don't like Allegri anymore. Like, literally fallen out with him now. Lost his ratings for me, or lost my rating, should I say. I'm not a fan of Allegri anymore. I actually think if they get rid of Allegri, they could be potentially challenging for a title. I don't see why Poch doesn't potentially throw his hat at Juve. They seem to be building a decent squad. I know it's not particularly in Poch's eyes with the age and stuff, but again, if I don't see Poch going to a club like I thought he would go to Dortmund and take a pay cut and really, build again. But it seems like Poch now wants to be at that level of managing clubs like Juve, PSG, Real Madrid. So I think maybe a Juve swap for Poch maybe might, invigorate Juve to go, because that's sort of, it seems like AC Milan are taking that approach now. AC Milan's football is very, very progressive, I think, under Pioli. And I think Inter Milan's football is still, nurtured by Inzaghi, but it's still under the image of Conte, and it's still very much played in that manner. So if you look at the two teams ahead of them, Juventus, that is, they're very attacking now, and obviously that's not necessarily what we'd associate with the Serie A. So it's refreshing to see, but I do think that Juve need to evolve that now. I think buying Allegri, as much as I thought it would be great, looking at it, obviously, like you said, Kieran, was a great point that you made about Conte leaving and Lukaku leaving, and that probably having more of an impact on me thinking they'd do well. But now I look at it, I actually don't think Allegri was a good choice at all. It feels like they've gone back in time. It feels like they've not made any progress, whilst their squad is actually really good. Zakaria, Vlahovic coming in, Gleison Bremer coming in.
Yeah,
there's a real Pogba obviously got injured, so he's out till Christmas, I believe. I think he even might miss the World Cup. So obviously Pogba would have been a great addition as well, in my opinion. But I just don't think Allegri's coaching any sort of attacking rhythm or patterns in that team. And if there's no patterns in that team, I don't think Vlahovic is going to look as good. I don't think certain players are going to look as good. So Napoli and Lazio, next best teams in Serie A. There's so many good teams in Serie A now. Haven't even mentioned Atalanta. Haven't even mentioned those teams potentially underneath these six. But I think Napoli and Lazio are the next best teams. So I've kind of just gone for them. But Roma, I'm confident. I'm confident for Roma.
I'm actually
a lot of really good points you made about Juventus, I would say. A lot of really good points that you made there. In fact, you kind of made me feel like my pick for Juventus with third, Darius, is kind of a bit crazy, because I don't really rate Allegri either. I really love everything about him that isn't football related. So perhaps, that was kind of, why I picked him, to be third. Just to, back up your points. They scored the 11th most goals last season. Yikes.
Awful.
Big yikes. They need to score a lot more goals next season. And did they really fix that problem? Vlahovic, is probably going to be getting the goals. Pogba, of course, but McKennie, Chiesa, Di Maria, Moise Kean, I mean, those are all great players, but like, you're kind of like, are they really going to be fixing, that goal issue? It's like, there's a
To
lot
be
of
honest,
squad
though,
issues there. Yeah.
to be honest, because I was thinking about this, but I've actually just kept them at third because I think like they didn't score enough goals last season. Do I think they'll be that bad again? 11th most in the league. Surely they'll be better than 11th most goals in the league. And the addition of Gleison Bremer, I think the amount of goals that they thrown away last season, like leads that they've thrown away, points that have thrown away from conceding goals, I think the addition of that will sturdy the ship a little bit. That even if they're just not losing a couple games, that they're grabbing the extra point here or there. Like for me, I think Roma's window has been so good for them. It's really kind of shaping up for a Mourinho team.
It reminds me of our window, doesn't it? Maybe the players aren't world class, but they all have a point to play or a point to prove in that system.
Yeah, but to me, it's just, I don't know. It's hard because I think, okay, yes, Roma's window's been good, but Napoli, who were in third last year, Roma was 16 points off of them, and will now be in the Europa League. They'll still be in the Europa League as well, which with Mourinho, he'll still throw his first team into that competition. I just feel like, I don't know, will they eventually kind of burn out towards the end of the season? It's similar to what we saw with us, where it's like you start well, but then eventually it just kind of starts to burn out. I don't think it'll end up in turmoil or him being sacked, but I don't know.
The question is do they push for the Europa League or do they push for the league? I feel like
if you're Jose, I
for one or the other.
I think he goes for that Europa League if it's Jose. I think it's it's probably the easiest way to get back in the Champions League in Serie A, because, like you said, we're not even in that sixth. Not even mentioned Atalanta, who have brought in a few good players. To be fair, Lookman I think has gone there, so they do look okay. But for me, if I'm looking at Jose, I can imagine, like Kieran said, them being the reason why I put them so high is actually exactly what Kieran said. I think they're going to start so hot and be probably top of the league in December, that the fall off when he eventually chooses to prioritize that Europa League will make it so then it's not that drastic, because they will already be so high and have accrued so many points. I think the fall off will only be 2, maybe 3 positions into that third or fourth spot. So that was actually my thinking behind putting them third.
I actually think after the first 10 games, they won't even be anywhere near first, Roma. There's a 23-point gap between first and them last season. And although I think the signings are good, and I think they will fit the system well, part of me thinks, is that a 23-point difference window? Especially when you consider Milan have gone and got De Ketelaere, they've gone and got Origi as well, so that last season pretty much you think Ibra was their backup striker and got had pretty much like 3 appearances or something ridiculously low. I don't think that was actually the number, just for anyone watching, but really low amount of appearances just because he was injured. You're now bringing in Origi or De Ketelaere as well, who are now options for that, rather than kind of going, we have Giroud. That's pretty much it.
I just feel like Roma are dark horses though for that third spot. Well. I just feel like he's spot on with Roma putting third, because I wrote them down as dark horses for third or second, because if Roma were to have an exceptional season, I could see them finishing third or second. And there's a lot of things that you could say that are bad about Juventus more than you could really say that are good things. Like even the fact that Alexandro is still like the only left back that I really know of, in that team. They still have Danilo and Cuadrado as like the right backs, as well. Like there's some really good players in that team, but there's still some major squad holes, and some major squad, kind of issues there. Whereas like Roma, like there aren't many squad issues. And in fact, I think they have one of the best wing back, kind of depth. They have Spinazzola, that Zalewski guy looks really good. That Zalewski guy, Karsdorp, Celik. They also have Cristante, who's been like, I didn't realize he was only 27. I thought he was like 33 or something. But Cristante has been like, I realized he's been like good under every Roma manager. So it sort of kind of suggests that he must be, a very good player. And yeah, I just feel like there's an easier case to make with Roma being like dark horses this season than there is with like Juventus finishing third again. Because while I agree with Kieran that like somehow they finished third, and that's kind of what we're going with here. Like somehow they did it, and like we'll just expect them to do it again. But there was no way that they deserved to finish third last season, and that's kind of the strange thing with it.
Would you know?
And had they not signed Vlahovic and really, you know, done something that nobody expected them to do in January, as Vlahovic had come out and said, "I'm not moving until at least," I said, "I'm going to get Fiorentina back into Europe." He went in January. I think that went under the. I think a lot of Juve fans weren't happy with the way he performed towards the end of the season. I think he got them into a respectable position. If it wasn't for his goals and, you know, his impact, I don't think they would be anywhere near the top 4 this season, or last season, should I say.
Do you know what? I do agree with you. There's a lot. Juventus are in a bit of a rebuild stage. If you look at the mass outgoings that they've had this season, you know, it is going to take a lot to stable that ship and really turn it around. And I do think there is a lot more negatives than positives, especially when you look at, I mean, who they lost. They've lost like De Ligt, Dybala. I'll bring it up here. They've lost Douglas Costa, Chiellini, Bernardeschi.
Wow.
I mean, Ramsey's not really much of a loss, but we'll throw that name in there anyway. Demiral. You know, they've lost quite a few players, and they've not necessarily brought in tons in.
Yeah.
But do you know what? I don't know. There's something about Roma. I feel like they're just having like, I don't know. Part of me feels like it's one of those windows where you look at it on paper and you go, okay, yeah, you can see that this is evolving into a Jose team, but I feel like it's been one of those ones where you look at it and you're like, yeah, okay, this is looking good, and then it just falls flat on its face.
It could fall flat within a year. It could be less. That you know what? It probably will fall flat after next season. But I do feel like he will squeeze everything out of the likes of, you know, Matic and Wijnaldum for this one season.
Yeah, I just feel like I actually think that probably Napoli may have a better chance in finishing. Will finish above Juventus and Rome. I feel like it's more likely for Napoli to finish third again than it is for Roma to finish third.
Really?
Yeah.
I kind of disagree with that, because I feel like they lost so many players, Napoli. Like they lost so many important players in that team, like that have been kind of the main goal scorers, the main creators in that team for a really long time. Then again, though, you could be right, Kieran, because Spalletti, I doubted last season and he proved me wrong, you know, and they were, I think, the best defense alongside Milan last season, but losing Koulibaly, you could say, might be a big loss, but they did bring in Kim Min-jae, which I think will be a fantastic signing. I mean, I don't know. Like,
Jack, just to interrupt you, because it's not just Kim Min-jae. You know, it's Andre Zambo and Gisa, Matthias Oliveira from Getafe. They've got Kavicha now. You know, so
a
couple signings. You know,
they have good signings. I'm worried. Like, I'm just worried. Like, I feel like they could have a major drop off now that like the major like kind of heads and figures of that Napoli team have kind of, you know, gone. They needed to go, but
especially Champions League as well. You know,
lots of turnover.
That could be a big thing.
Yeah, that's all I would just say. It's just lots of turnover over there. Just quickly, though, on Lazio, I actually feel like Lazio could be dark horses this season. Again, you know, my theme here, I believe in managers. I believe in Sarri when he's in the Serie A. He had the second most goals scored last season in true Sarri fashion, had way more goals scored than Atalanta, just behind, actually, Inter Milan. He had tied for the 10th fewest conceded. So it's just, like I said, classic Sarri fashion. A lot of goals conceded. A lot of goals scored, though. He did so much, though, with like so little last season. When I really look at like the squad that he has available to him, it is kind of crazy that he finished with the second most goals, you know, scored in the entire league. I don't think he has the second best attack or the second best, you know, choice of, you know, kind of forward thinking players, you could say, you know, in the league. So it does show like what Maurizio Sarri is capable of. He did sign Romagnoli, which I think is a huge signing, you know, for that team after, I believe it was Luis Felipe left. They signed Marcos Antonio from Shakhtar Donetsk, which I think will become his new Jorginho. And if that signing goes really well, I could actually expect Lazio to be somewhat dark horses this season. So that's why I put them actually 5th place, just because I believe in Maurizio Sarri.
Yeah. I can't argue with that. I can't argue with managerial choices this season. I think as much as we do want to go with our favorite players and stuff, certain managers have really
set wrong last season.
Yeah, but I feel like, again, you look at Stefano Pioli, didn't get the respect he deserved last season for the stuff that he did, the season before last, and it carried on. And all they're doing is improving. So I just feel like with these teams improving, I don't see why they wouldn't maintain that level. However, this probably, as I said, La Liga's the most difficult one to predict. La Liga is probably the easiest one, I think, or the one that I'm most confident about. This one and maybe the next one are the ones that I'm beginning to less likely think that I've got right. I can't. The only one I could guarantee maybe is the top two, but apart from that, the four beneath them could be in any order, really and truly.
Would love to see Jose finish third. I would absolutely love it. Premier League predictions, last one here, everybody. And Kieran, he is, going to need to go soon. So we're going to let him explain, his, Premier League predictions first, at least, so he can feel like he can get his say in. Man City, Liverpool, Tottenham. Seems like we're all on the same page there. You're welcome to discuss that. But you are the one that did put Arsenal the highest, Kieran, which might need some explaining there. But take it away.
Why are you pointing this out, Jack? Lastly, it's the most interesting transfers. Now I'm being bullied.
Jesus is there last week and now this week. Secretly.
Now you're trying to point this out. To be honest, I think 3rd to 6th could be anything this season. I actually had the hardest time predicting the Premier League because part of me is like, yeah, we'll finish 3rd. Then I was like, wait, I don't know. Will we finish 3rd? I don't know. Like, I feel like with Conte, we are going to make progression. And then, it's like the other teams, I'm like, I think Man United can do well, but I think Chelsea aren't going to do as well. Will Chelsea drop to 6th, though? I don't know. That seems like a bit of a stretch. So this was a really hard one, but I just kind of went on the premise of Chelsea seem to have been a poor pre-season, and I think that they have a few, of the teams that they'll be competing with from 3rd to 6th. With early on, obviously they play us at home. Obviously not we're at home, they're at home. They take us on early. I think we'll actually have a decent chance of getting a win there, despite our poor, history at Stamford Bridge, just purely because of how they've done in pre-season. I think I've only put Arsenal that high up. I think they'll start really well, burn out towards the end. But I think that the points that they've accumulated amongst the poor start and average kind of up and down season, I think United might have. I think that maybe they'll just kind of edge 4th. And then, for us, I just said to myself, do you know what? I just have to back us to get 3rd, even if I'm not sure of what that order is going to be. I'm just going to whack us in 3rd and then figure out 4th, 5th, and 6th, and just go from there. So it's pretty much just that.
But we both went for Man United in 5th. Do you feel like Man United, though, Kieran, just to come back right at you, do you feel like Man United are just going to be a bit more organized than, Chelsea, less up and down, maybe more consistent points, throughout the season?
I think it'll just be more consistent. I think they'll be up and down, but I think Chelsea will have a poor start. And I mean, if they have a really poor start, it could result in a sacking, and then you're talking about a team trying to turn it around. If there isn't a sacking, then it's like, how can he then turn it around? Too short, Chelsea. I don't know. I just feel like they're gonna have a poor start. I feel like United, although I said it'll be up and down, I think it'll just be an average season. But I think they'll look a lot stronger. I think they could even get 4th. Like I said, for me, it was just 4th, 5th, and 6th could be anything. Once I said to myself, I've got to back Tottenham.
Definitely. Kieran, I'm not sure how much time you have, but I am just going to put your link into the chat. So maybe at any stage when you feel like you do just need to go, I'm putting that in there. I know you also have, a stream that I'm going to be on hopefully tomorrow that is going to be Premier League predictions as well. So when you do get the chance, we'll chat about that.
That'll be a pre-recorded, but it'll be live on Friday because obviously that's the day the Premier League restarts. So it'll be before the first game of the season. That'll be live.
Gotcha.
Perfect.
Understood. But, Darius, it seems like, you and I have shown that we're actually Thomas Tuchel lovers. So just quickly, before, I, plug, the chat for your Kieran's channel here. Thomas Tuchel, why do you think you and I have, given him 4th place and, have gone against the rest?
Yeah. I mean, I said it was the hardest one, but I don't think it's going to take a lot of explanation. It's a very quick explanation for me, this Premier League prediction. I'm never, ever voting against City ever again. that's just one. So that's why City are first. Default second best team in the league in Liverpool. So that's why they're second. Spurs, I genuinely do believe. I think it was a really good point made by somebody. I can't remember who it was exactly, but they said that it's difficult to see Conte's system and how Tottenham are going to play in the season in pre-season, because his system is so heavily reliant on intensity that, you know, when the pre-season is so intense and the running drills are so intense, it's hard for players to mimic that intensity that Conte needs from his, you know, system in a pre-season game. So I think we'll see the real Tottenham in the first game of the season and, you know, towards the start. So I still have confidence Tottenham will finish third. Chelsea, just 10 minutes ago, Cucurella has been confirmed as their new signing.
Great signing.
100% confirmed.
I changed my standings.
Yeah, I was gonna try and throw it in there before, but I feel like it was a bit unfair. That was a little bit in the back of my mind when I predicted
that. Was mine too.
Chelsea to finish fourth. I think Cucurella is an amazing signing for them, and it's hard to count out Chelsea just in general not finishing in a Champions League spot. So Arsenal, it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be so tight. It was going to be so tight. If Arsenal finish fourth, I won't be surprised. If Chelsea finish fourth, I won't be surprised. And United, I think, unfortunately, will have, in their eyes, I think it'll be a good season because there'll be progress made in terms of the way they play football, in terms of, you know, the individuals that are playing, in terms of, you know, a bit of the player power and sort of that sort of side, and the internal side of Man U, I think, will be improved to where next year they will really push on, and I think will properly challenge, you know, a spot in that fourth. Because I think a sixth place finish for Man United is bad if you don't see any progress in the football and in the squad and the club in general. However, from what I've seen in pre-season and the way Erik ten Hag has already actually got them performing and playing how he wants to, I see an identity in Man U already. I think sixth place will be a little bit of a hard one to take, but because they'll see, like, you know, 4s and 5s at Man U, and they may see 3s and 4s going the other way, I think Old Trafford will be very excited to see what Ten Hag's going to bring, and will be excited to see, you know, the likes of Martial, Rashford, and Sancho, in my opinion, all back performing to when they were scoring and assisting 20-odd goals and getting 20-odd goals and assists in their seasons respectively. So I think Man United, despite, you know, the position looking poor in my prediction, I think will be, you know, one of the teams that everybody sort of enjoys.
Won't look as bad at the end of the season.
Yeah. So I think it will be, that's how it looks like for me. I think Arsenal and Chelsea are going to be the tightest in terms of points between each other. That's going to be a real close one. I do want to close that gap between City and Liverpool, but for me, 6 to 10 points is progress if we can get between that.
Completely agree.
So yeah, I think it's quite, now I've actually explained it to myself, it feels a lot more simple, this prediction. But when I actually was, like Kieran said, actually going through it and trying to put teams in positions, I was really struggling, because at one point I did have us second place. And then I remember what I did with Liverpool last season, and I'm not doing that again either. So yeah,
really good legwork done by yourself there, Darius.
I can't believe I put Liverpool fourth. I can't believe I did that last season. I'm not doing it again. I'm not making those mistakes again.
Honestly, I think it's when Darius explains it, to be honest, especially with the signings they are making. Oh man, I don't know. I'd actually probably change my predictions to be probably exactly what Darius has. Part of me just feels actually now, as soon as that you said Cucurella, I'm like, there's other deals they're linked with getting done as well.
Yeah,
I just like, it is so hard to overlook them. Chelsea, you know, last year everyone hyped them up. I think maybe that has kind of swayed me, you know, thinking, well, everyone thought they were going to win the league, and then they did poorly. But
that's true.
Yeah, I'd probably actually go with what Darius says, actually.
Yeah, he really convinced me there too as well. You know, I'll give my say there. But Kieran, should I let you go now, or should I keep talking? You know, because I know I do want, maybe people who are listening.
I might have an extra 10 minutes. So
all right, well, I'll take it away for Chelsea. I believe, again, you've heard me say this a few times, I believe in managers. Thomas Tuchel is a manager I do believe in. I think he's the most successful manager, at least of recent memory I can recall, at least with PSG. He's at least, the one that took them the furthest, in the Champions League. He was also the one that seemed to form the best relationship, between like Neymar, Mbappe, and the rest of the squad. There wasn't as much, kind of like squad controversies, at the time when he was there. So he does know how to handle kind of the Hollywood superstars. He was really good at one stage at Dortmund. He can adapt really well to bad circumstances. So as much as he was behaving like a bit of a Karen Klopp, this preseason, kind of complaining about the transfer window. I feel like he's adapted to bad situations in the past. We saw last season, even when Reece James and Chilwell were basically, scoring goals for fun when they had no strikers and when they weren't playing Lukaku. So it sort of shows that, Thomas Tuchel is capable of adapting when he needs to, but he could still get himself sacked because he's had really bad relationships in the past with boards, with owners. He's gotten himself sacked for kind of being a bit of a Karen Klopp and kind of complaining a bit too much. So I am a bit worried there. But if he sticks around, I trust him, to get them fourth. Chelsea, I feel like, would be devastated if they finished outside the top four, regardless of, the ownership change and whatnot. I feel like Chelsea fans would just be, I feel like there'd be riots if they finished outside top four. So I feel like they're going to do everything in their power to do so, and having Thomas Tuchel as the manager to do it, I feel like is pretty good there. If they sign another center back on top of Cucurella, like you just said, Darius, I feel like then the transfer window wouldn't really actually look that bad if they signed a center back as well, because
they are linked with Frankie de Jong, but I don't know how much of a possibility that is for them. But I think they're going to get two more big
another
signings.
Great signing. But
yeah,
like if they signed another center back, I feel like that would be pretty exceptional, because if you had Koulibaly, Thiago Silva, and another, fantastic center back, they would look, I think, really good going to the season. And Thomas Tuchel, it's not like they were really like a free goal scoring team in the past anyway. Like they're always a really good defensive team. And if he gets that defensive, kind of, improvements that he needs, I could see him, grabbing fourth. Fourth at the end of the day, if you're a good defensive team, you can get fourth. Whereas Arsenal, I don't expect to be maybe the best of defensive teams. In fact, I actually expect Arsenal to maybe concede, a few goals, mostly because, they didn't really improve on that defense. I know they have a lot of new additions to that defense, but they didn't exactly improve on it. I feel like they don't really have a lot of hard men sort of players, in that team. The only ones that I could really think of or find were, I think it was Chaka, as well as Gabriel and Partey. And, like you really look at it, it's like they don't really have a lot of guys that have any real steel, in that team. So I'm a bit worried about them defensively, because they're mostly all technically gifted players, but there's no differentiation. Like there's no Højbjergs in that team. And I've always said this, every team needs a Højbjerg, whether it's starter or, substitute, every team needs a Højbjerg. And I'm a bit worried that they don't have any kind of hard-nosed sort of players in that team. They also have no leaders in that team. The reason they blew top four last season was because they basically had nobody in that team with any sort of kind of top four kind of experience, to get them into that top four. And what did they do this summer? They continued to sign players who have no experience in getting them into top four and have no experience in that sort of situation. So I'm a bit worried again, for Arsenal in that situation, if, they are, going to be signing players with no top four experience. They've also been passing around the armband over there, like it's almost like a bag of, or like a bowl of popcorn, at the movie theater. It seems like, is what I wrote down. The armband is going from Chaka one week to Odegaard the other week to Kieran Tierney one week. It seems like everybody gets a taste at the armband, which also is something, again, I don't really understand. I feel like that doesn't contribute, to, a good environment at the football club. And two last things, European football, let's remember, they now finally have it once again, and we'll see how they're able to adjust to that and be able to adjust to the pressure of playing on Thursdays as well on Sundays. And then last but not least, the post Amazon Prime special curse. Spurs had a horrendous season the year after the Amazon Prime special. Will Arsenal also have a horrendous season the year after the Arsenal Prime special? That's my spiel on Arsenal.
I've heard very well, not for Arsenal fans, but a lot of people are saying it's incredibly funny to watch from a neutral perspective. So not good signs, and it starts tomorrow, so I'm very excited.
I've seen reports that it's the best comedy special you'll have seen in years, unless you're an Arsenal fan. From people that have
I was just
genuine. I saw the same article.
Reason we signed Jose was for that reason? The reason we signed Jose was because we were like, okay, we don't want this to turn into a laughing stock, of like an Amazon special. So we're just going to sign the most serious, like credit, credible
probably got
manager
as well, didn't he? With
brought the ratings up, made it less of a laughing stock, made it more entertaining. I think it made it more entertaining, less like comedy, more entertainment. So whereas like
at the
Arsenal's
detriment of entertainment on the pitch, though, Jack, that's the only problem.
Do you know what?
Big detriment to entertainment on the pitch.
Conte was the manager we needed. Conte was the manager we needed at that moment in time. And we actually managed to somehow have a Amazon Prime series with Conte.
Well, I mean, I think
started this project a year early. Oh,
I hope I would love to see it. I mean, there's so much. To be fair, like I said, I'm not really fussed about Arsenal. I do think they've got a good squad. They've had a good window, but the experience is so important. And that Europa League, if I was them, I would just go. You kill two birds with one stone winning that Europa League for Arsenal. So I don't know why they don't just put all of their eggs in that basket. But you need to finish in a respectable position because obviously fans are going to look at that league finish and they'll look at that league position and say, well, you finished 7th, and if you don't win the Europa League, then you finish 7th and you got to the final. It's not good enough. So yeah, it's difficult.
Difficult. To be honest, like I said, I'd probably change mine to be what yours is, Darius. I think, to be honest, I wasn't even thinking about Arsenal having European football. There've been that many seasons without it. It just comes as a given they don't have it anymore. I know it's only Thursdays. It's not. It's not Tuesdays or Wednesdays.
Thursdays is harder than Tuesday and Wednesday. I feel like I think you're better off having Tuesday and Wednesday games than you are having Thursday games because the Thursday games you were relegated to play on Sunday like all the time, and like the fixture list gets packed, and I don't know. I think it's more packed when you play on Thursdays.
I think you kind of have a little bit of a shorter turnaround time as well between matches. I suppose look at. Were Leicester in the Europa or they're in the conference. They're in the conference. I mean, even look at how much they were drained.
Were they in Europa and then got like demoted down to the conference?
They got demoted down to the.
Did they get like third place finish? Yeah.
But even look at how much that drained them this season. I don't know. Man United even have conference, don't they?
They have Europa League. They just got into the
Europa League. That's right.
West Ham. They won and West Ham lost on the last day of the season. So
that was it. Because I've seen West Ham playing like a team that are like nicknamed like B36 or something. Like the qualifiers for it. But apparently it's like a team that I don't know why it was, because it was trending, and I was like, why is this trending? And then I looked at it and it was like the team's called B36, but apparently they're like some team that people always like, all these professional like betting people always put bets on. Like some random team that they always put bets on. Now people are like, come on, like B36, like doing upset and beat like West Ham.
But any final words here, lads? Maybe on Premier League. I feel like we covered a lot of it. Here.
I only hope, and this is just personal, that Erling Haaland does come clean and come good. And I know he will, but my boy got hounded on Twitter for that final performance. And I don't know why, because he actually didn't play that bad. City just weren't looking for balls in behind. He was making the right run. So fingers crossed Haaland gets 25, as I said, because I put money on that he's going to get 25 this season.
25?
Yeah, I that's how ballsy I've gone, mate. I
would imagine he has the least fragile ego of most strikers in the world.
Yeah. I mean, I think to be honest, I think after that Community Shield, I've seen a lot of people basically now saying like, oh my God, Darwin Núñez, he's better than Haaland. He's going to score more goals. I don't think that's going to be the situation at all.
No, definitely.
I've made this public way before even Liverpool showing interest in Darwin Núñez. I think that he'll eventually be a good player, but I think he's a little bit too clunky at the moment. It'll probably take him a season to fully adapt, a season and a half to fully adapt to the Premier League. But yeah, I think Haaland will probably be third top goal scorer this season.
Salah probably top, isn't it?
Kane, maybe Salah behind him, and
Salah's not got a
then
World
Haaland.
Cup. That's my reasoning why I think he's going to get top.
Alrighty. Dermot with the super sticker before we end off. He said, how's it going? It's going well. We just finished the whole shebang. We finished predicting all top 6, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we do, who does better, who does worse at the end of the season. It's going to be really, really interesting. And also it's just nice because then it, forces me to pay attention to the rest of the leagues, Dermot, as well. Now that I've given my predictions, I'm kind of hoping, that I can get some right. Big up though, my man. Hopefully you're keeping well. And everybody do check out Paxton Road. Do check out Kieran's channel as well. The links are in the chat. Yeah, Kieran, sorry.
To be honest, actually, if people are interested in getting into other leagues, the easiest way is maybe to just pick one league to start with, right? Pick a team and then just, you got to say they're your favorite team. That's how I got into watching Bundesliga. I was like, Leverkusen, that's it. They're my team. I'm following them. I'm supporting them. And then I've just found myself, I'm watching a lot more Bundesliga games. So people are actually, I know some people maybe don't have the chance or find it hard to get into leagues. Just pick one that sounds interesting or you think might be interesting. Even use our predictions and what we've said in this video to maybe pick a team from one of those leagues in the top 6 and just tell yourself like you support that team. Whenever you see that team playing live on TV, you just watch them as if it's
especially if they're in UCL as well. Then you obviously get to watch them on Tuesday and Wednesday nights as well,
and that makes it a lot easier as well because you're already following Tottenham in there as well. So that's another way.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout. I would do that.
Just don't pick Erta. Don't pick them. Anybody else. Anybody else.
You'll nearly get relegated. To be fair, you do get the excitement of when you think you're going to get relegated, then you don't. So
and if you support a team that's close to winning titles, then you get both of those feelings, don't you? You get that relegation horror feeling, and you get that title euphoria feeling. So best of both worlds.
I mean,
best of both.
Actually, to me, I think I would say Bundesliga is very fun for people who don't watch it.
It is very fun
because their relegation is different. It's like they have the playoffs and the relegation is like the same thing. So that teams that be in the playoff play against the relegation teams to see who stays or goes up.
Gut wrenching.
Yeah,
the playoffs. I mean, it's absolutely gut wrenching because you're going up against you're going up against a lower league side that deserves to be there, and then you're the team that doesn't deserve to be there, and then you could see if you can cockroach yourself back into the league. It really is not,
because I mean that's the thing. Like I know it's quite interesting towards the end of the last season.
Also, everybody roots against you. Everybody wants the team to go down as well.
I mean, I've got friends that live around the Stuttgart area, and I mean, obviously, the last day of the season, they scored in additional time, like added time to like secure themselves. They were like all celebrating on the pitch and everything. And then there's I knew that you were supporting Hertha, and it was like, unlucky Jack. And then you go into relegation and you somehow stay in the league somehow, even though you should have just gone down. It's like
we were absolutely
you've won the league even though you finished like in the relegation zone.
We did not deserve it whatsoever as well. And we're even selling most of the signings that we even just brought in the last season as well. It's not going well over there, but maybe for another time. Everybody, do appreciate you all tuning in. I've had a lot of fun doing this one. It's one of my favorite sort of streams. I know it's not for everybody, but it is, at least for me. It's one that I really kind of enjoy a bit selfishly. And I know Darius and Kieran enjoyed it as well with their predictions. But that'll be all for now, everybody. As always, come on, you Spurs, and we will be seeing you.